If you've seen the moon in the sky, you'll know how far it seems. But it's actually 384,000 kilometers away. And humans first set foot there in 1969. Neil Armstrong just watched that moment when the whole world held its breath and watched a small TV. 5 more missions followed. The last time, in 1972, Apollo 17 astronauts landed on the moon, and then they stopped. Now, you might be wondering why they stopped. The money was there, the technology was there, but why wasn't there the will? The answer is a bit complicated. The Vietnam War, economic crisis, political will waning. Then came the Space Shuttle program, which continued to orbit Earth. Then came the Challenger tragedy in 1986, when the shuttle disintegrated seconds after launch, killing 7 astronauts. Then came Columbia in 2003, one after another. Each setback, each time my spirits were broken, each time the deadline was pushed back, and thus humanity was trapped within the invisible wall of low Earth orbit, which is only 400 kilometers high, 1/10 of the distance from Earth to the moon. But on 1st April 2026, a rocket shot up in the Florida sky, shattering that wall. The humans who broke this wall, their story is as interesting as the mission itself. Commander Reed Wiseman, a Navy test pilot who spent 165 days aboard the International Space Station. A calm and calculated type of person who remains effective even in a crisis. Then, the pilot, Victor Glover. And here's something that will make you stop and think. Victor Glover is the first black astronaut to ever go beyond Earth's orbit. Mission specialist Christina Koch is the first woman to go that far into space. And Jeremy Hassan is a Canadian. The first non-American citizens will fly by the moon. Look at this crew, and then remember the Apollo crew. Apollo crews were American. No exceptions, no discussions. In 2026, the crew of Artemis II represents all of humanity, and this isn't just symbolic, it's essential. Because space doesn't belong to any one country, any one race, or any one gender. Let's talk about the things that are happening in this mission that have never happened before. There are many things that will make you feel like this should have happened. Why didn't it happen so many years ago? The first thing is that the Apollo astronauts' bathroom was a plastic bag. Yes, you heard that right. An adhesive bag they taped to their bodies. 3 grown men in a cabin as small as a closet, facing each other for 14 days, and no privacy. And that bag was carried with them throughout the mission. Every Apollo astronaut who has spoken honestly about this has said that this was the worst part of space travel. The Orion spacecraft on Artemis II has a proper toilet, with a door, a lock, and privacy. Secondly, the Apollo cabin was so small that scientists officially decided that astronauts would not exercise. There was no space, no equipment, and the mission was so short that muscle and bone loss was acceptable. Many Apollo astronauts returned home so weak that they could barely stand. It was a problem. The Orion in Artemis II is a spacecraft 60% larger than the Apollo command module. The Apollo cabin was the size of a large closet. The Orion is the size of 2 minivans with the side-by-side seats removed. It has a 1.4-kilogram flywheel, which is about the size of a carry-on bag. There are squats, there are deadlifts. Going to the moon in zero gravity? This sentence would have seemed crazy even to an engineer in 1972. The Apollo flight computer had a total of 72 kilobytes of memory, only 72 kilobytes. Today, a single WhatsApp message on your phone can be longer than that. Orion's computers are 20,000 times faster than Apollo's. And the most amazing thing is that Orion can fly on its own. In 2022, during the Artemis I mission, there were no astronauts on board. Orion flew a full circle around the moon, turned around, and returned, completely automated. Apollo astronauts. Technically, there were passengers in a vehicle that couldn't operate for even a minute without ground control. Orion's astronauts are pilots. And this is important because when humans go to Mars, signals will take 20 minutes to reach Earth. There's no real-time ground control, and the spacecraft would have to fly itself. An entire Apollo mission's worth of photo data was in megabytes. The crew of Artemis II sent 100 gigabytes of photos and data over the 4 days of the mission, not by radio, but by laser infrared light. When Christina Koch looked out Orion's window, the image captured of Earth was on screens around the world within a few hours. High resolution, near real time. Transmitting a single image on Apollo took minutes, and the quality was so small that pixels could be counted. This mission's crew would see something on the moon that had never been seen before. Humans have never seen it before. On the far side of the moon lies a crater called the Orientale Basin, 1,000 kilometers wide. So vast that it could fit within it an area equal to the entire territory of France. Robots have photographed, satellites have mapped it, but no human eye has ever seen it directly, never seen it from a window. The Apollo mission's trajectory was such that it was always in shadow or angled out. Artemis II's path is different, and NASA has confirmed that the crew has already seen it with their own eyes. The first humans to see what only machines have been able to see. Artemis II will break a record set by tragedy. In 1970, the Apollo 13 oxygen tank exploded. 3 astronauts were at risk of death. Engineers devised an emergency plan to use the moon's gravity to bring the spacecraft back to Earth without firing its engines. The Apollo 13 crew set out on that path. It had reached a distance of 428,000 kilometers from Earth. This is a record to date. No human has ever traveled farther than this. Artemis II will go 6,000 kilometers further. And the most interesting thing is Apollo 13's emergency plan, which was a last resort made in a desperate situation. This is the primary flight plan for Artemis II. What was a last resort at the time has now become the backbone of engineering, and it is perhaps the most uncomfortable. Returning home is the most dangerous part of this mission. When Orion enters Earth's atmosphere, its speed will be 400 kilometers per hour. The heat shield's temperature will reach more than 2,500 degrees Celsius, more than half the surface temperature of the Sunday. And in those few minutes, there will be no signal, no sound from Houston, just 4 humans amidst plasma and fire. Now, here's one more thing that's a little uncomfortable, but important. After Artemis I, when engineers examined the heat shield, they discovered unexpected damage. The shield's material hadn't burned as predicted. Some scientists suggested redesigning it. They suggested fixing it first, then sending humans back. NASA reviewed all the data. Independent experts were called in. They analyzed it from every angle and then decided to send the crew. This is the shield on Artemis II. The same design, and the crew knows this, and they went here knowing this, because this is what exploration is all about. This is what it has always been about, taking risks, accepting them, and still flying. Let's address the most important question that's probably on your mind. Is this mission just a flyby? A pass by the moon and back? No landing, no moonwalk. So what's the big deal? The answer is that this mission is the foundation without which nothing else is possible. The life support systems that keep astronauts alive in space are being tested here. The navigation that keeps spacecraft on their exact path is being tested here. The effects of radiation on the human body, which is much greater outside Earth's orbit, are being recorded here. If anything fails here, if anything unexpected turns out to be true, that data will save the lives of the astronauts who will go on future landing missions. Apollo proved that humans can reach the moon. Artemis II is proving that humans can survive there and go even further. Mars is a dream that still seems like science fiction, but whose blueprints are already being made. Orion has already been evaluated for a 1,000-day mission. 1,000 days is more than 2.5 years in space. And Artemis II data shows that the bodies of these 4 people have been deeply entangled in the Earth's atmosphere. How do they react to space radiation? How is their sleep? How does their cardiovascular system adapt? This data will shape the missions that will send the first humans to Mars. And then comes that moment that no technology can change, that not even 53 years of progress could touch. Orion will fly behind the moon for 40 minutes. No signal will be transmitted, no lasers, no radio, no data link, no voice, just 4 people, a metal shell, and 400,000 kilometers of emptiness. Houston will wait. The whole world will wait. And in those 40 minutes, those 4 people will experience something that can't be taught in any training. The Apollo astronauts also heard this same silence. In 1969 and 1972, they too saw this same darkness. In 53 years, computers have changed, rockets have changed, cameras have changed, communications have changed, even toilets have changed. But this silence remains the same. The moon still blocks signals, the darkness is still the same. And in those 40 minutes, no technology saves us. There's just humans alone in the middle of the universe. Artemis II reminds us of something we tend to forget. The Apollo crews were conquerors. Their target was the moon, and they hit it. The crew of Artemis II are pathfinders. The moon is not their destination. It is the first stop on a path that leads to Mars. And this crew, for the first time, is diverse enough to represent all of humanity, demonstrating that exploration is not the work of any one nation, not of any one color, not of any one gender. It belongs to all of us, and it is for all of us. A 23 years old boy discovered Pluto. An 11 years old girl named it. Today, a black pilot, a woman, a Canadian, and a commander are on a path no one has gone for 53 years. In science, age is no barrier. Background is no barrier. Curiosity and courage are all that's needed. 4 people are sitting in front of that window. They're looking at that blue orb. Reed Wiseman said, "You could see the entire Earth, pole to pole, Africa, Europe, and if you look carefully, even the northern lights." The feeling you get hearing this will be 1,000,000 times greater for the 4 people who are actually there. And perhaps, sitting in front of that window, they are understanding something that no classroom teaches. Maybe we're all the same on a tiny blue sphere, in a vast darkness, and the courage to go into that darkness is what makes a human being human. When the first human climbed the peak of an unknown mountain, when the first time someone launched a boat into the ocean, when Neil Armstrong took his first steps on the moon's dust. And today, as the crew of Artemis II flies in that silence where no signal reaches, no sound is heard, they are carrying forward the same thread that was broken in 1972. They are picking it up, they are carrying it forward and laying the foundation for a world where humans are only part of one planet. This was the journey of Artemis II. A story that hasn't ended yet, but has just begun.